first time I heard those words was roughly 15 years before I spent my first night in federal prison. And though Rodney King will always be more remembered for a very important question he asked that same day, being stuck and having a need to work it out played much larger roles in the lives of this privileged white boy, white-collar criminal, and the black inner-city drug dealer I was bunked with. Looking back, Eric and I knew we had nothing in common. He was black and I was white, and society had already taught us all we really needed to know, and that we were at maybe the only place two people like us would ever run into each other. Fortunately, we had no choice. And as time went on, Eric and I talked more and more, and the better we came to know each other, the less color we saw. We told each other jokes, we talked about our lives before prison, we talked about how much we missed our kids and our families and how the mistakes we had made kept us from those people we loved. In short, we were communicating. Two men from different races that had learned, and I think learned is a pretty key word here, learned to ignore our differences, those same differences that had previously prevented us from seeing the things we had in common. Eric was released before I was, and before he went home, I told him the impact he had on me and how through him, I began to understand that though black and white people both live in this country, they live in two different worlds. So I promised him that if I ever made it as a writer, I'd try to do a story that put the racial shoe on the other foot by creating a world that is strikingly similar to ours, yet totally different. So flash forward a bit, while on probation or supervised release, former bad guys are prohibited from having contact with one another. So Eric and I, we kind of fell out of touch. But within a few years, I was blessed to have some success with my first two books, The Reason and The Sinner's Garden. So one day I decided to look him up online, and literally the very first thing I saw under his name was a brief clip about a man that had been shot and killed during a home invasion. And I immediately remembered a promise I'd made that man, and that night I started to work on the outline for what ultimately became The Crown Lord. And though it's impossible for a white man to fully understand the oppression black people have experienced, I did my best, and based on early reviews, it sounds like we came pretty close and may have opened some eyes. And in hindsight, I don't know how many times I said it, but prison is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. And at the same time, there are a few things I would trade for the experience because it was a much needed time out that really gave me the opportunity to slow down and figure out who I really was and what was important in life. It also taught me the answer to that very important question Rodney King asked back on May 1st, 1992. Can we all get along? Yes, Mr. King, we can, but we all have to try.